A former middle school teacher enters a plea in her sex abuse case involving 3 different students in Iowa. We have the latest developments in Cassidy Kraus's case and the punishment she's facing with trial attorney Florina Altshiler. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law&Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. Fortunately, we got another one. Yeah, this time it is Cassidy Kraus, a 24-year-old ex-teacher taught in the IKM Manning School District of Manning, Iowa, and she has just pled guilty to sexually abusing minors. And let me tell you, what a roller coaster of a ride this has been over the last year. So in July of 2023, Kraus got married, but just 1 month later, in August, reports came to light that she was engaging in inappropriate sex acts with minors who were just 13 and 14 years old. By September, her husband Zachary had filed to have the marriage dissolved by the courts. In October of 2023, Kraus was arrested and charged with 1 count of third-degree sexual abuse, 2 counts of lascivious acts with a child that included fondling or touching, and 3 counts of dissemination and exhibition of obscene material to minors. That brings us to January 2024, when Kraus entered a guilty plea to all 6 counts. The charges stem from incidents in 2022 and 2023 when the middle school reading teacher sent inappropriate messages to 3 minor-age boys over Snapchat. That's where the dissemination of obscene material comes in. Kraus admitted that in May of 2022, when she was 22 years old, she fondled a 13-year-old boy and touched her genitals to his body. Those make up the other charges. And she admitted that in January of 2023, just months before her wedding, she performed sex acts on a 14-year-old boy, which is why she was hit with that sexual abuse charge more specifically. According to the IKM Manning School District, the school got a report that Kraus had sent multiple sex photos to students. She was put on leave, but then resigned instead of being fired. The school board accepted her resignation. It's been reported that Kraus had actually attended school in that same district when she was growing up, then later came back to teach after attending Iowa State University. Now she could face up to 33 years in prison, and she has a sentencing hearing set for March 11th in Carroll County, Iowa. Let's talk about this more with trial attorney Florina Altshiler. And Florina joins us actually in studio, I think we've had maybe one other guest in studio, but good to see you, Florina.
Great to be here. Thank you for having me.
What do you think about this case? Let's start there real quick.
Terrible,
yeah,
awful, an obvious example of somebody abusing the authority that was vested in them.
Yeah, and unfortunately, we've been covering these cases a lot. I want to talk about the punishment. So the sexual abuse count and the lascivious acts, hopefully I'm saying that right, with a child, they're all Class C felonies. My understanding is they each carry a maximum sentence of 10 years in prison each. Then the dissemination of obscene materials, those are misdemeanors, so they have a possible sentence of 1 year each. If my math is correct, and I like to think that it is, that's 33 years in prison. You think she's going to get 33 years in prison?
I highly doubt it. But what is different about this case is you have 3 different victims. And so that time can very well be added consecutively versus concurrently, because we're talking about 3 different individuals.
I mean, one sentence after the other as opposed to them serving together. Why do you think it won't be 33 years?
I'm assuming that she does not have a prior criminal record. And since she is a teacher, so she's an employed person, no longer a teacher given these acts, generally, the criminal justice system looks favorably on people without a criminal history and with a job. So
she abused that. She took advantage of that job.
She obviously took advantage of that job, and that's why she should be serving a prison sentence as a result. Yeah. In theory, she should get the maximum sentence. But I highly doubt, if we look at past cases of similar situations, highly doubt she will.
By the way, one of my favorite things about being a host on Law and Crime is how passionate our audience is. You guys don't just sit back and watch. You engage. You leave comments. You give us feedback. You make your opinions known, which I can't tell you how much I appreciate. But one of the most popular opinions is how much you love our police body cam videos. And I'll tell you, I agree. I think they're fantastic. They're unpredictable. They let you see firsthand what's going on in any given situation instead of just hearing about it later in testimony or from police reports. Well, I am excited to tell you that we here at Law and Crime, we've heard you loud and clear, and we have launched a whole new YouTube channel dedicated only to police body cam videos. It is aptly named Law and Crime Body Cam. It is your new destination for all of the most shocking police interactions on the internet. We're talking high-speed chases, dramatic DUIs, arrests that you just got to see to believe. So go check it out. Go subscribe. Let us know what you think. You might even hear a familiar voice on some of the videos. It's me. It's me. I'm not going to lie. I get to narrate some of them. Huge honor for me. Great opportunity. But just click the link in the description. Catch all the action on Law&Crime Body Cam. I'm going to see you there. Why did she plead guilty?
I'm assuming the evidence was overwhelming against her, and with social media and with TikTok messages and text messages, all of that now is documented, and these cases become very easy to prove.
And just to be clear, she probably took a deal because she thought she would get less prison time. Which will that be a consideration?
Admitting responsibility and expressing remorse does go a long way to mitigate a potential sentence.
What's so crazy is she's living this double life after starting a new life with her husband. That was one of the most disturbing aspects about it. But you mentioned the Snapchat. You mentioned the social media. Snapchat in particular, I think, is really interesting because it's one of those platforms where you send a message and it disappears, right? And we've seen recently Snapchat has come not necessarily under fire, but there's been more of an eye to it because of that feature, that criminal conduct, whether it's drug deals or something like this. It's that platform is being used to further criminal conduct. Any liability on the part of Snapchat here?
There's certainly new litigation where social media platforms are being sued for either encouraging or facilitating criminal conduct. But that is new case law that is yet to be made. We had the big case with Backpage of facilitating prostitution and sex trafficking. That was a big deal. There's social media platforms being sued now for the top shooter who killed 10 Black people as a race-incited act.
Yeah.
So it's becoming a thing, but it's not yet established law where the social media platforms are being held civilly responsible for facilitating criminal acts.
I'm just going to say this, not even a legal point of view, but I think parents, they just have to be so careful with what their kids are doing on social media because I think that's where a lot of it used to be chat rooms, right? It used to be chat rooms, and now it's these kinds of social media platforms where you can be contacted by anybody.
It becomes very easy to be brave behind a screen.
Yep.
It's very easy to send sexual messages and exchange photos and ask and encourage minors to perform sex acts virtually.
Can we talk about the school district for a second? I'm curious if they face any legal liability because it seems to me they did everything that they were supposed to do, right? So when they found out she was put on leave, they worked with law enforcement, they let her resign instead of firing her. I always ask this question because everybody's always, how could she have been a teacher? How could she have been around young people like this? Does the school district potentially face any liability?
I think potentially they do have civil liability for negligence in hiring her, in retaining her, and in failing to properly supervise her. What's really important here is we have 3 separate child victims. So obviously this is not the first and only time. And we have incidents going over a course of time. At some point, you would think somebody should have noticed and should have intervened.
Just a crazy, crazy story, very disturbing, but it is important to talk about. That doesn't change. And the truth is, we get to tell you these stories. We get to break them down for you because of the support that we get from our sponsors and partners here on Sidebar. They help make this show happen. And that is why I want to talk to you about the sponsor of this episode, Attorney Tom and Associates, because getting injured is something you don't plan for. It comes out of nowhere. And in that time, the last thing you want to worry about is who should represent me in a legal case, right? Well, that is where Attorney Tom comes in. You see, Tom and his team, they obviously have the legal knowledge, the legal skills. That's a given. But they have genuine empathy for their clients. And finding somebody you can trust is invaluable in these cases. So whether you were injured in a car wreck, a refinery explosion, maybe the victim of securities fraud, received a notification that your information was included in a data breach, whatever it may be, and there's many other situations, Attorney Tom can help. And their track record in these kinds of cases is so impressive. And look, if your case is not the best fit for Attorney Tom and his team, they still may be able to recommend you a lawyer using their national network of attorneys. But with Attorney Tom and his team, you're not just hiring a lawyer. What you're getting is a powerful ally who is committed to your well-being. So if you've suffered an injury and you need legal support, click the attorneytom.com/sidebar link pinned in the comments for a free consultation or dial 855-TOM-WINS. I think we've covered a lot of these cases before, you and I, unfortunately, and it makes me wonder why we're seeing so many of them today, right? Is it that perhaps it's a blessing and a curse with the social media platforms? It creates a record. Sometimes people can see these messages, or is it that, it's easier? So what I'm trying to say is it easier to detect this kind of conduct? There's text messages, there's social media content. It creates a record, it creates a stronger case for prosecutors, or is it that something else is going on? Like, has this always been happening, or is this something else going on that we're seeing so many teachers and school administrators being accused, charged, pleading guilty to these kinds of crimes? What do you think?
I think child sex abuse has unfortunately been a thing in society since there were children and there were adults. There's not something new where child sex abuse is just now a thing, but it's much easier to detect and much easier to prosecute with this digital footprint that these perpetrators are leaving behind. I do think that it's becoming easier to groom children with social media contact by being able to communicate with them, send inappropriate messages, and encourage children to also be more sexually brave via social media, which then opens the door to physical contact.
And I know you're not a psychologist, but the fact that she was leading what would otherwise be a normal life. I've looked at pictures of her and her husband. You would never know this was going on. You see that a lot, right? Somebody could living a completely sordid double life that their partner, their family doesn't know about.
Yeah, look at the serial killer out of Long Island who killed over a dozen
Allegedly.
prostitutes.
Evidence is strong there, but yeah, allegedly.
A lot of times what makes this so shocking and so horrific is these appear to be normal, upstanding citizens in society who are living normal lives, but they're clearly not.
Unbelievable. Florina Altshiler, good to see you. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks so much for having me.
And everybody, that's all we have for you right now here on Sidebar. Thank you so much for joining us. Please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Jesse Weber. Speak to you next time.